unanswered call, Sarah was home alone, a familiar routine on Friday nights while her parents went to their weekly bowling league. She was curled up on the sofa, engrossed in a movie, when the first unusual sound broke the silence. A soft thud from upstairs. She paused the movie, her heart beginning to thump a little faster. The old house often made noises, settling and creaking, but this was different. It sounded like something had fallen. She called out, her voice a little shaky in the empty house. Only silence answered. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe a book had slipped off a shelf. Maybe the wind had knocked something over outside. But the feeling of unease persisted. A few minutes later, she heard it again. This time it was clearer, a distinct creaking sound from the top of the stairs, like someone was slowly stepping down. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Her parents wouldn't be home for at least another hour. She grabbed her phone, her fingers fumbling slightly as she opened the dial pad. 911. Her thumb hovered over the call button. She held her breath, listening intently. The creaking stopped. Silence. Maybe it was just her imagination getting the better of her. Just as she was about to put the phone down, she heard it again, this time accompanied by a low shuffling sound, closer now. It definitely sounded like someone was moving inside the house. Fear surged through her. She pressed the call button. The phone rang once, not twice. Then a voice, calm and professional, answered.
911, what's your emergency?
Sarah tried to speak, but her voice seemed trapped in her chest. She could hear the shuffling getting closer, now definitely on the landing just outside the living room.
Hello? Is anyone there?
The operator asked, their tone becoming slightly more urgent. Finally, Sarah managed a choked whisper.
There's someone in my house.
Can I know your address?
Sarah struggled to recall the exact numbers, her mind racing with panic. She could hear the floorboards outside the door groan softly. It's 14 Oakwood Lane, she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper.
Okay, 14, Oakwood Lane. Can you describe what sounds are you hearing?
The shuffling stopped right outside the living room door. Sarah could feel her heart pounding in her ears. She could almost hear someone breathing on the other side. I heard thuds upstairs, and then someone walking. They're right outside the door now, she whispered, her voice trembling uncontrollably. A long silence stretched on the other end of the line. Hello? 911, Sarah whispered frantically. Then, a different voice came through the phone. It was low, raspy, and chillingly close, like it was right next to her ear. She can't talk right now. Sarah's blood ran cold. Her eyes darted to the living room door, her body frozen in terror. The operator's voice, now laced with panic, could be heard faintly in the background.
Who is this? What is going on?
The raspy voice on the phone chuckled softly.
Just a friendly visit.
Sarah wanted to scream, but no sound would come out. She stared in horror as the doorknob slowly began to turn. On the other end of the line, the operator was frantically trying to get a response.
Ma'am, are you still there? We're sending someone to your location.
But Sarah wasn't listening. Her attention was fixed on the widening gap of the doorway as it creaked open. A dark figure stood silhouetted against the dim hallway light. The last thing Sarah heard through the phone, before it clattered to the floor, was the raspy voice whispering again, much closer this time.
You shouldn't have called then.
The line went dead. At the 911 dispatch center, The operator frantically tried to reestablish contact. Police were immediately dispatched to 14 Oakwood Lane. They arrived within minutes, sirens wailing in the night. The house was silent. The front door was unlocked. Inside, they found Sarah's phone on the living room floor. The 911 call still connected, but with only static on the other end. Sarah was gone. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle, just an empty house and a chilling unanswered call. The police investigated for weeks, but no trace of Sarah was ever found. The only clue was the recording of the 911 call, a terrifying testament to her final moments. Sometimes late at night, dispatchers say they can still hear faint whispers on the old recording, a raspy voice repeating the same chilling words.
You shouldn't have called them.
I used to house sit for a family friend who owned a large, old Victorian home. It was the kind of house that felt eerie even in daylight. Tall windows, creaky wooden floors, and rooms filled with antique furniture. But the strangest thing about the house was a life-size clown statue in the corner of the upstairs hallway. I hated that thing. It was old and faded, dressed in a tattered red and blue costume with oversized shoes. Its painted-on grin was cracked, and its glassy eyes seemed to follow you no matter where you stood. I tried to ignore it. On the third night of house-sitting, I was watching TV downstairs when I heard a soft thump from upstairs. It wasn't loud, just enough to make me pause. I muted the TV and listened. Silence. I brushed it off as the house settling and went back to my show. But then, maybe half an hour later, I heard another sound, a faint shuffle, like someone shifting their weight. I glanced at the staircase. My heart started to beat faster. I told myself it was my imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I turned off the TV and decided to head to bed early, convincing myself I was just being paranoid. As I climbed the stairs, I avoided looking at the clown statue. I didn't want to see those lifeless eyes in the dim hallway light. But as I walked past, something felt off. The statue seemed closer to the hallway than before. I stopped, my skin crawling. Had I moved it by accident? No, I hadn't even touched it. I took a deep breath and shook it off. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. That night I barely slept. Every creak of the house made my pulse race. I kept picturing that damn clown standing in my doorway, grinning at me in the dark. By morning, I was exhausted. I tried to laugh at myself for being so paranoid. But when I stepped out of my room, my stomach dropped. The clown statue was facing a different direction. It had been turned, just slightly, but enough that I knew. I ran downstairs, grabbed my phone, and called the homeowners. I tried to sound calm. Hey, that clown statue upstairs, you're sure no one moved it recently? There was a pause. Then the homeowner said something that made my blood run cold. What clown statue? I felt my knees go weak. I hung up and ran outside, locking the door behind me as I dialed 911. The police arrived within minutes. They searched the house while I stood outside shaking. When an officer finally came back out, his face was pale. Someone had broken in. They found a broken second-story window leading into the hallway. There were muddy footprints trailing from the window to where the clown had stood. But here's the part that still haunts me. The police never found the intruder. No fingerprints, no stolen items, no evidence of who he was or what he wanted. The only thing they knew for sure, I had been alone in that house with him for 3 whole days.